Hi everyone, welcome back to Sow Arizona. It has been 3 weeks since I took cuttings from some of my favorite tomato plants, either because I couldn't find seeds for them anymore or because I just wanted to take the shortcut and have larger seedlings ahead of time for when I can set them out in February and March. So we are 3 weeks since I took those cuttings, and I want to show you the development of these lovely roots. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus. So in 3 weeks' time, all of these roots have developed. So at this point, I am ready to pot my little tomato cuttings because it's time for them to move on to the next stage. And I want to share this with you so that you know exactly what to do in case you're following along and you've taken cuttings yourself. So in about 3 weeks' time, you can start potting your cuttings, and that's what we're going to do now. I'm on my front porch. Behind me is my little potting bench that I have here. It's actually right next to my front door. Let me show you. Front door, and that's because I have all of my light racks inside, so this is just a really convenient space to work. I've got a covered shaded area overhead, and I can pot things up or fill my seedling trays with soil and seeds and then just carry them right back into the house and put them under the lights right around the corner. It may seem strange to have a potting bench right next to the front door, but sometimes you have to have a function over form. And if anyone comes over to see me, they already know I'm a crazy plant lady and should not be surprised at finding a potting bench next to the front door. So let's get potting up with all of these lovely tomato plants. I'm so excited to start these on the next stage. The javelina dug up another one of my little starts, my agave starts. So I've got it here. I'm just going to move that out of the way for now. I need to pot that up too. Put these here, and I'm going to grab some pots. I love this setup because I have everything I need to be able to efficiently plant seeds or pot things up. So I've got my little workspace up here where I can fill it with dirt and just make a big mess. I've got all of my potting soil right behind me. And then I've got several different kinds of pots here that I've tried to organize. And that way I can accommodate any type of plant that I want to pot up here within reason that will fit under my grow lights inside. So this is a pretty efficient workflow. I work here, I have the mess outside so that I can simply sweep it off into my flower beds, and then I can carry whatever I have planted right inside and put it under the lights. So it saves a lot of time and a lot of mess on the inside of the house, so I can just make my mess out here and then carry things in. For those of you that are curious for a closer look, I've got all of my soil here that I am getting ready to use. That's here on the top. And then on the bottom are all of the pots that I've got, several different sizes. I've got some of my seedling trays down here ready to go. Those are washed and cleaned and ready. And then I have various kinds of soil depending on what I want. These I will use for up potting and for seedlings. And I've got some back here that are a lot coarser, and those are for cactus or for houseplants. So I really like this workspace because I can come out here and play to my heart's content, and then, like I said, go right in the door. I'm just going to kneel down here so that I can talk to you and you can see what I am doing. I have several different kinds of pots. Like I said, this is a 6-inch pot. This is a really heavy plastic. I got this off of Amazon several years ago. It has drainage holes, and since it's such a heavy duty plastic pot, I can just sterilize these and reuse them from season to season. So I really like that I don't have to keep buying new things. I can just reuse things. And they come with a little, just a saucer so that you can put those on there, and it is a lot less mess on the inside. And I want to show you the other 2 sized pots that I have as well, because if you're thinking about getting a setup for yourself, I think it's really nice to see what other people have. So the other ones are exactly like the brown ones that I just showed you. They've got the drainage holes on the bottom, and these are about 8 inches across so that they accommodate bigger plants. And I've actually grown pepper and cucumber plants in the house, like a patio style, and these work really well. If you have a south-facing windowsill, or if you have grow lights that you can use, then you can actually grow quite a few things in these pots. And then And then to accommodate the smaller things, I may just direct sow things in these. I think these are 3 or 4 inch pots. I have sown zucchini seeds and watermelon seeds and things in here. And if I want to get a head start, I will just put them in here. And then I have a pretty good sized plant because this accommodates a lot more roots than just doing it in a basic seedling tray. So if I have a bigger plant that gets bigger faster, then I'll use this one. All right, so that is my setup. Let's get started with potting up the tomatoes. Okay, so one thing that is really important as you're filling your pots up is to make sure that you have pre-moistened your soil. You don't want to use soil that has been sitting around for a while or that's old and dried out, because it's very hard to rehydrate soil after that. It becomes hydrophobic, which means it repels water rather than absorbs it. Maybe you've seen that if you have tried to water old soil, and you can see that the water will, rather than soak in, it will just run right off. So anyway, just make sure that you are starting with either pre-moistened soil or nice fresh soil that is easily hydrated. As I'm working, I've got my jar here full of water so that I can keep those roots in the water so they're not drying out as I'm working. So I decided that I'm actually going to use a bigger one. I had originally wanted to use this size, but I think I'm going to use this 8-inch pot instead. It offers a lot more room for the roots. So what I like to do is just fill the pot halfway like this. And then I will hollow out a little space for those roots to go in. And then I will gently set this down in. And then I will pour additional soil around it and just kind of work my way around. I've got to go get some more soil here in just a second. Let me go do that. I'm going to just fill it the rest of the way like this. The soil right now is a little bit fluffy, and as I water it, it's going to compact down a little bit. But if you are up potting or potting anything in a pot like this, you want to leave a little bit of space. So I like to leave about 1 inch of space. So I may take a little bit of this out just because I want to be able to water without worrying about overflowing the pot easily. And that is all you do. So now I've got a cutting in 3 weeks time has become a little baby plant. And I want to show you how I care for this plant moving forward to make sure that it matures into a really healthy plant. All right, now that I've got my little tomato seedling all potted up, I'm going to be watering it really well. And when you're watering at this point, you can actually give a little feed, but you want to be careful and gentle about how you do that. You want to feed appropriately so that you don't damage the plant. There are a couple of different things you can do to feed your new up-potted seedling without harming or burning the roots or the plant, and that is by diluting the feed that you're using. So I will use a houseplant feed, just a basic houseplant food. I like the liquid kind, or I will use a fish fertilizer or a fish emulsion. And what I like to do is dilute that by half so that I'm doubly sure that I'm not going to be burning my plants. And those two choices that you have, either houseplant food or a fish emulsion, are pretty lightweight anyway. They're not a super strong fertilizer, but I just like to ensure that I'm not going to harm the plant by diluting it by half while the plant is small. So that is what I do. I think that it really sets the plant up for success. It gives it additional nutrients that maybe it's not able to get with its new roots quite yet because these roots are still getting established. So I'm just providing a really easy and available food source for them for extra nutrition. And once I am done with this, I'm just going to carry it right inside and I'm going to put it under my grow lights so that I have it safe and growing well so that it's not getting leggy. And in another month, it's actually going to be ready to go outside. And once I do that, I'm going to make another video on it just to show you how I harden off these seedlings so they aren't damaged by the wind or by the sun, since they have been in a sheltered location. For those of you wondering, those cuttings that were in the jar have not been under the grow lights. They've actually been in a jar and a south-facing window, and they have been doing really, really well. I actually had to move them from one of my windows because the light was a little bit too direct and too intense, but once I moved them to a spot that was just bright, but not too intense. They have been so happy, as you can see, and they are ready to become big little boys and girls and go out into my garden. All right, so this is a tray of the Setzer hot dog tomato that I am growing out for Seed Savers Exchange this year. They are actually doing really well. They've got several sets of true leaves here, as you can see, and I think I'm going to be up potting them and giving them a feed too. And I wanted to give you a couple of pointers on how you can keep your tomato seedlings growing as strong as possible. So I don't know if you can tell, but they are just a little bit floppy, and that's because they have grown in a very sheltered location. They have not had wind or insects or any other stressors to create a thicker stem for them. So that is up to the gardener to do. So there are a couple things you can do. You can set up a fan to provide additional airflow to just kind of sway those tomatoes back and forth and create a thicker stem. You can also simply come in a few times a day and just pet them with your hand. You can also use a pencil for that if you want to run the pencil through there. Those are a couple of ways that you can strengthen your tomato seedlings so that they are sturdier for when they go outside. What I'm going to be doing is using these 6-inch pots this time for these, since these are much smaller plants, and I'm going to be potting them up and giving them a feed with that diluted houseplant food that I've got that I was telling you about, and then I will put them back into my house underneath the grow lights for another month or so until they are big enough to harden off outside. I like to get everything all set up, so I've got my pots and I've got my soil and I have my tomato seedlings, so I'm going to work pretty quickly. It's a little bit chilly out here today, so I don't want to stress these tomato seedlings out too much because they are used to being cozy and warm on the inside of the house, so I don't want to be stressing them too much. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to do a couple so you can see how I do it and how developed these tomato seedlings are as I decide that I'm going to be up potting them, so that you know when yours are ready to be up potted as well. I'm going to try to lift it out really carefully, just so that you can see. So this one is probably about 5 inches tall, and it's got several sets of true leaves. I want to explain that. These are not true leaves. These are the first leaves that you get. They don't have any of these notches like these more mature leaves. All of these are the true leaves. And these are like the little cotyledons that come out right as the seed is germinating. So that is how you know when you've got several sets of true leaves, you can carefully pot that up. And when I turn this over, I can see that I've already got roots that are starting to completely fill out that small amount of soil that is available to them in the seedling tray. I want to keep these roots in this plant really well fed, so that's why I'm potting it up into a bigger container so it has access to all of the nutrients it could possibly want. All right, so here is my little pot. I'm going to carefully lower this in. Notice I'm not holding it by the stem. I don't want to do that because if I break the stem off, then that plant is pretty much ruined. So I'm going to put it in here, and I've put it down deep enough that I'm going to be able to fill that soil up, you know, pretty far. I would say not quite 2/3, but close. And then I will just support the top of the plant with my hand, and I will fill this in, and I'm just going to tamp it down. And I'm going to put a little bit more, but I'm going to leave enough space that I can water this really easily without it flooding over the sides. Let me go a little closer so you can see exactly how close. So you can see it's buried not quite 2/3, but pretty deeply. So that way it will continue to develop roots all along the stem that's under the soil now. So that is that. The next thing I am going to do is just water it really well with some of this 50/50 diluted houseplant fertilizer. So any basic houseplant fertilizer will do. I am not going to recommend any specific brand because honestly I haven't found one that is my just absolute go-to favorite. So I've found pretty much anything will do. Any fish emulsion will do, or a basic organic houseplant food. I like the liquid, and that will do just fine. So these are going to go underneath the lights right away. I'm going to put a little plant marker in there so that I don't get confused. first, and we are going to up pot the rest of them. All right, so that is the update on both my tomato cuttings and my tomato seedlings that I started from seed. So 2 different options for you, and these are the next steps for ensuring that you've got healthy plants to go out in just another month or so. It's really hard to believe that we are almost ready to start another tomato gardening season, but I am really excited, and I hope that you are too. I'm Kara from So Arizona. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy gardening.